Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on VodTalk. I'm your youth fluent host, Alisha Ahmed. For over 20 years, male suicides have accounted for around 3/4 of all suicides. So why is it that men's mental health still remains so largely overlooked? In this episode, we'll be discussing how pressure from society and social stigmas result in the neglect of men's mental health. Last episode, we looked at teen mental health, but today we'll be focusing on men's experience in particular. So let's welcome our two guests, Kaleb and Lilli. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi, how are you guys today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
Okay, great. So, first I want to ask you guys, what do you think leads to men's mental health being overlooked in society? Like, what do you think causes it? Lilli or yeah.
I think I would probably say, I mean, I obviously don't know too much about it, but for me, it would probably be like a lot of toxic masculinity, because I think that's a lot to do with kind of the idea of what is like masculine, and often that's not synonymous with kind of emotions and being comfortable like expressing them. And because we've all heard the terms like, oh, you need to like man up and stuff, and
Yeah.
I think that is really what prevents like men from like kind of reaching out, or even just like talking about it with like their friends or in just sort of open conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely heard of toxic masculinity as well. Have you, Kaleb?
I think personally, yeah, I have a lot. Like majority of the time, people are scared to like even open up about their feelings, and like I feel like men find it the hardest to like to say how they feel about certain situations, and coming out and saying certain things is looked as not socially normal for men to do. So I think for a man to say something is a big thing. It's a big thing in this society.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does toxic masculinity mean to you? As a definition, just in case there's any viewers who don't know what it means, how would you just describe it, Kaleb?
I think masking um your own emotions for society, and allowing people to take control you because of the social norms of like of men being the strongest in the household, or maybe your ego's bigger than your inner emotions, and that takes over your normal like way of thinking or your actions.
That's true. That's true. I think for like a really long time, um, being emotional has always just been associated with women. It's still associated with women, and it's not really associated with men at all. In my experience, like I think I've changed how I see things a lot. Like as I've grown up, I do know now that men have every right to be as emotional as women. But when you're growing up and like society around you is just already it's that way, like you don't expect to see men being emotional. It's like there's like a phrase that men don't cry, or men
Mm.
would like, I don't know, do you know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
how would you, yeah, what else would you say about that, Lilli? Like, do you have anything to add?
I think when I think about toxic masculinity, most of the time I would say it's all about kind of having the kind of constricting, like traditional sense of what is considered like manly or masculine, in terms of kind of like being like the breadwinner and like being the only one that's working and kind of being tough and not really let anything get to you. When I think like in reality, that's not really possible, because like obviously we're all human, we all like feel things. And yeah, I just think it's quite a kind of like constricting definition of what it means to like be a man and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. What would you say are some examples of toxic masculinity in society today? Like, as you know, how our generation is very like it's very different, it's very unique to other generations. How do you think it manifests in everyday life? Like things that we see between girls and boys, maybe at school, outside of school. Like, what examples can you guys share?
I think sometimes it can be quite like synonymous with kind of. I mean, obviously, I don't know like that much about it and stuff, but in terms of like gang like culture and stuff, and kind of having to be like this kind of like hard like guy and like being kind of tough and like ready to kind of just like do anything, um, when like in reality, like that's not really how like people are, and you can't, and it's like very hard to kind of uphold that like all of the time.
That's true. You've made me think of so many things, such as like I've just thought about how not having any emotions is actually glamorized. Like
Yeah.
on social media, I see so many people just like putting up a message about being like really closed off with their emotions, not even share,
Mm.
like not being open with anyone, and it's actually like a desirable view. I don't know if you've seen that, Kaleb, like people doing that on social media, etc. What do you think of all of it?
Well, personally, I feel like when it comes to having your emotions online and trying to show people how you feel is like the worst way people start. Like I feel like you see people's if you say your emotions online, I feel like it's a weakness because everyone knows how you feel. And as a man, like personally, I know I'm an easygoing person. I know I can't speak for every man, but I can say that I speak my emotions freely, and I'm comfortable with it. But with a lot of men, they feel like they're insecure. They don't know. I feel like personally, I feel like men don't want to open up to people online because they feel like it's exposing them for who they are. Well, not for
Mm.
who they are, but I feel like people. I don't know. I don't know. In this society,
I
it's
know what
very
you're
hard to
saying.
explain.
I think that putting anything personal out online is hard because it's
Mm.
you're sharing it with everyone, even if you don't mean to. But I do feel like there should be a change. Like you said, either you don't share your emotions online. No one's asking for that really, but at the same time, I think the culture of being like a cold-hearted, emotionless person, someone who doesn't have that kind of puts the same message that you don't care about anyone else as well. And I
Yeah.
think that should stop, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think also a lot of times kind of being like emotional and like expressing like how you feel is seen as like, well, often it's all about being vulnerable. And I think that is really sort of like, because in like with like toxic masculinity and stuff, it's all about being strong, and
yeah,
you're not, men aren't typically supposed to show like vulnerability, and which is like considered weakness a lot of the time.
that's true. Why do you think that it's considered a vulnerability? Like, is it because I think Kaleb, you could give us more insight. Is it because like it's men to men or women to men? Like, who is it that fear of like being vulnerable is towards? Is it just towards everyone?
Feel like everyone has a certain pressure when it comes to personas and like image. In this society, a lot of the time, people's realities are in their phones, like majority of the time. So
It's true.
you have a lot of people masking how they really feel through Instagram, social media, like Snapchat, just different apps to channel how they feel. So in the stage, it's hard to really say who you are, like, and express yourself.
That's true. I'm glad you said that because I wanted to talk about social media because I feel like social media is a really big issue. It's not always it's not always negative. I think it can be really positive at the same time. There's so much positive things that come from it, but it also plays a really negative role, especially when it comes to well, we spoke about toxic masculinity, but like when it comes to social stigmas, social media just reinforces them because I feel like that's where it comes from. Like that's where you'll see it the most because
Yeah.
almost everyone has social media. Like we could speak for everyone. Everyone has some sort of social media. So it's you just know that it's gonna be out there. So
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you guys think is the problem with social stigmas affecting men especially? Like within
I
within
feel
mental
like
health.
it affects. I feel like it affects personally. It affects like the household, and how they treat their children. They usually, you say, there's a phrase, the man always like treats their child um like, I don't know, I don't know the phrase exactly, but I know that it's on the lines of that the man treats the child the way they would, like, in their own image type of way. Do you get what I'm saying? So a man channels their own, like, emotions through their child, and that's what comes out eventually.
Mm.
You
Oh,
see,
I see what you're
you know,
saying. So
yeah.
so
I don't know exactly.
do you mean this as like a positive thing or a negative thing?
It can be positive and it can be negative depending on how the man treats his child.
That's true. So are
Sometimes,
you yeah, sorry, Karen.
sometimes in, like, there's social stigmas of the man not always being there for the child, not always being around. The household. Sometimes that you know not having a man in the house can affect the child, and you see it over the over the years, and then
Oh,
it's like a cycle, and it just happens. And so it's like that effect can always change a household depending on how the man treats the child. You get what I'm
I
trying to
see
say?
what you're saying, and I think that I really agree with you. I think that that's really important, especially when it links to men's mental health, because I think what you're saying is that when there's a lack of a male presence at home, that's going to affect the future generations of males and how they deal with their emotions, because mental health is all about emotions and psychological, like what's going up in your head. So if a male figure isn't there, then that's going to be really, that's just going to affect the way that a male is brought up. So maybe that's actually where, like, we need to start trying to tackle the way that, because if we change our generation of males, then our future generations will be saved, because they won't have to go through um like the lack of emotional support from father figures, or even if it's like an older brother, it doesn't necessarily have to be a father, or just like, I don't know, uncles, brothers and stuff, males. So
Mm.
yeah.
I think also kind of like going back to the social media thing, I think part of it is because like on social media, anyone can see anything that you like post. And so I think a lot of people feel like they kind of need to portray a certain image of themselves that they want to like be portrayed. And so people only see them as that thing. When in reality, like humans are like multifaceted beings, and we all have like different sides and different emotions to us. And when you kind of present yourself in like the image of like one thing, that can often like sometimes invalidate your own feelings, which can like seriously affect mental health. And I think that is like definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. On the other hand, like, do you guys think there's anything positive going on right now in society or on social media, or any good changes?
um I mean, just from like what I've seen, I think now like femininity in men is being a lot more like celebrated. So, for example, in terms of like fashion, you see celebrities like Harry Styles or something who like wore a dress on the cover of Vogue, and like whilst that was quite controversial, he was very much like celebrated for it, especially like people in our generation. And so now I think like the definition of what like makes a man is really changing for the better. And I think that will definitely have a positive effect in the future, as like Kaleb talked about, in terms of like how you grow up affects like how you raise your own children, and that therefore kind of changes the next generation.
I agree with you. That praise is really amazing, and the fact that it's no longer like controversial, and it's still controversial, but I mean it's being celebrated is really good, because it means that social stigmas are being broken down. And if one stigma is broken down, it means that so many more can come after that, including the stigma against mental health, and men in particular. I actually saw this is kind of recently. I think, I don't want to get the name wrong, but there's like a radio, there's like a famous British radio broadcaster. I can't remember his name, and then he came out with a documentary on BBC, and he was opening up about his mental health. I think he battled with depression. I will definitely find out his name sometimes. I think you guys will know him, but I just can't remember his name. But he made a whole documentary about mental health, and I remember my teacher speaking to me about it, and I felt like it was a really good like first step forward, because obviously he's a male and he's opened up in front of the whole nation, and it was really difficult for him. Like, it might sound easy because he's already in the media, he's already a broadcaster, but he did like say how it was really, really difficult for him. But I thought it was really inspiring at the same time, and I think that things like that are really good steps forward.
Yes, definitely.
Kaleb or Lilli, do you guys have any experiences that you want to share? It doesn't have to be personal, but maybe things you witnessed or have heard about, like in relation to men's mental health. It can be positive or negative. Anything to do with maybe toxic masculinity or social stigma to share with your viewers.
I mean, in my opinion, I think in going back to like toxic masculinity and stuff, I would say it's probably most prolific in secondary schools, when kind of like teenage boys are like growing up and kind of trying to find like their own identity. They kind of turn to like the traditional sense of like what is like manly and kind of expected of them, and often I think that's like quite detrimental to the boys, but also the girls, because part of like toxic masculinity is like being masculine and like kind of like going after girls and whatever, and that has like an effect on everyone. And I really I think it really does need to be addressed, because often it's kind of talked about like with sort of adult men, but at the same time I think that has kind of left it to kind of become more and more popular in teenage boys, which I think is a problem that really does need to be addressed.
That's true. I agree with you. So maybe like in secondary school, we should like raise a lot more awareness about mental health for men, because I actually I remember getting educated a lot about mental health. Like Lilli, I know we do PSCE. Kaleb, I'm not sure if you do PSHC as well, or like CE, is it called? Did you do that? It's like a lesson where you.
Education. PE.
No, not that. It's what is it, Lilli? It's like
it's like personal social stuff. It's basically where you learn about like life skills and kind of like mental health and like sexual assault, but also like how to be like a productive member of the community.
Yeah, it's like loads of different things combined. We basically had lessons on this. Yeah, exactly. So I think pretty much everyone in this country does that lesson.
Yeah.
Compulsory. And ever since, like for years, we've been having lessons on mental health. I think we get at least one lesson on it every single year. And it's never been focused on men and mental health and like drawing attention to the fact that it affects men. I actually read up on a really interesting statistic the other day that I think it was like around 40% of men will only go and seek support or help if they're experiencing really severe symptoms like contemplating suicide. And that just shows that they will wait until it's really extreme, like not their fault, but this is just the way that it is now. But yeah, a lot of men wait until their symptoms are really extreme to seek help. And I feel like it's because of what you both described about being the breadwinner, being the
dependable one,
the dependable person at home, that you don't want to like show that your weakness and show that you're vulnerable and seek help from somewhere else, because I feel like men are always like pressured to be the strong, just a strong person, and to be really masculine, and that's where the term toxic masculinity comes from, because it
Yeah.
just becomes toxic and unbearable. And in fact, like, sadly enough, probably toxic masculinity is what can cause some mental health problems like depression. I can easily see why that would cause someone to become depressed, because it's just a restriction. It's just such a huge restriction on behavior. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what also like is a part of that is that sometimes men only see like therapy and kind of seeking help as like a last resort, because they're kind of expected to like deal with their own problems and just kind of get on with it. And but like kind of seeking help is also seen as like being kind of vulnerable and weak, which is like I think a big problem, because it's definitely, I would say, a lot more acceptable for women to look for kind of like medical or professional help,
yeah.
because yeah, often it's just a lot more seen in media, which I think definitely helps. But as sort of time goes on, you do see more and more of it in sort of different like TV shows, and as Alisha talked about with like the documentary and stuff. And I think, or at least I hope, that that will have some kind of positive effect on the kind of future.
Yeah, me too. So, Caleb, do you suggest anything that will help to change this issue and to move forward? Like, what do you think would be most effective in helping, like, helping reduce the stigma against men's mental health? Okay, Lily, would you like to? You can carry on instead.
Hello.
Caleb.
Yeah, yeah, we can see you.
Hello.
Oh, I was gonna
Okay. Yeah.
say,
Sorry. Let's carry on.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. Yeah. Good now.
So I was gonna say, I, uh, I was gonna say, like a lot of the time, it starts off with the elderly. I come from a Caribbean household. Like, not well, my mum and my dad were born here, but my grandparents, the majority of them are Caribbean. So, my granddad, I feel like he's softened up a bit more, but it's harder for him to open up. I feel like if they allowed older men to open up more, maybe like have open group conversations with other like men of their from the same place as them, or maybe have like people with similar like like I forgot what they're called, like open groups, like conversations with like
Mm-hmm.
people that are suffering with PTSD, because a lot of the time majority of our like grandparents from a lot of I can my granddad came here when he was about 17, 16 from Jamaica. So they stuff from a lot of, they hold a lot of things in. I feel like our older generation, they don't open up a lot. And you see it from, all sides, like a lot of the time you wouldn't know that, my granddad lost his son when he was younger. So it's one of these things where it's not even the media. Like, I feel like it's just like there should be more groups and more places for people to go, like open places for people to go, not to feel like alienated, or like a way of, of feeling like they don't want to go, or like they're pushed to go. Like, I feel like if they allowed people to just go freely and feel more comfortable in that situation, I feel like, and if it was advertised more, there would be a big change.
I think that's a really good idea. And I agree with you. You're right that there needs to be a change from older role models to younger role models. Um, And I guess you know best what is needed right now. So yeah, thank you for that. And Lily, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I think we've covered most of it, but just the one thing that I would stress is that like it is like slowly becoming more mainstream. But I think in terms of kind of like adult men like talking about like their feelings and seeking professional help and things like that. But I think there also like needs to be an increase of that focusing on kind of the like social groups like kind of or age groups like outside of that. So as like Kaleb talked about with like older generations, but also like the younger generations as well, because that I think will probably what will make like a lasting effect like on society and how society thinks that men are supposed to act like and be like.
Yeah, I really hope so, because I think if something like that was brought about, that would be really, really like crucial to helping. And yeah, it should be something that's like really relaxed and made comfortable, because I think if it seems, like you said, Kaleb, if it seems alienated or unusual, people won't feel comfortable enough to go and join. Yeah, so to wrap this up, the final thing I want to ask you guys if you know any support or helplines that can help. You don't have to know anything off by heart, but just if you know anywhere that offers help and support, you can share it with our audience.
I mean, I think there's always going to be stuff on like NHS websites and things like that. But I would probably also recommend maybe having a look online about like maybe kind of like groups where you can just, it doesn't necessarily even have to be like about mental health, but just like finding groups where you feel comfortable and kind of free to like express like what you're feeling in like a safe space.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that hopefully, I think there should be so much out there online that can help. And I just want to remind the audience or anyone listening that most things are private and confidential, and there's nothing to fear. And it's really, really easy to go on Google and find support. Like it's not as hard or as strange as it seems, and it's there to help. I do know of one website. It's called the Calm Zone. .net, I think, www.thecalmzone.net, and they offer support just specifically for men aged 15 to 35. So it's got like quite a broad age range, and they
Yeah.
offer support for people who are like contemplating depression, suicide, and yeah, that support is there. So thank you to the guests who joined me today. Thank you so much for coming and for helping contribute to the discussion. And I hope the audience have enjoyed watching and have learned a lot more and now have some insight on men's experience of mental health in society today. Please continue to join us on VodTalk to help us raise awareness for important issues like these. And please follow, subscribe, and support us. Share our videos on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And yeah, let us know what you'd like to hear about next. We're always happy to talk and to discuss any future topics. So until next time, bye.